Advanced Custom Fields version 6 is about to be launched, and I just thought we'd have a look at the differences between the new version and the old version. So this is the new interface, and you'll see that it's a lot more styled, but essentially it's all the same information. The biggest difference on this screen is that the field groups here plus new has been moved into its own row, whereas before it was just nested here above all active and trash. So to show you the difference, I'm going to call up the old version, and you'll see here that we had Advanced Custom Fields Pro. We still have field groups, tools, updates, add new, and the same information is available now in these columns. The div class that you see here is just pulling through because I moved custom field groups from the new version to the old version, and these div classes are visible here, but there's no way to edit them out. So the other thing then, where the real differences come in is when you start getting into the field group. So let's just go over and have a look at a field group. So here's a pretty basic field group, and you'll see that the new version is all about tabs. Everything is tabbed. So straight off the bat, you have your settings for where you're going to display your fields, and immediately it's tabs, and each time you click a tab, if you've not scrolled to the right position, then you might find your screen scrolls a bit, but you're still, yeah, so things do jump around a bit. I don't know if that's going to be fixed or if this is how it's set to work. Yeah, but anyway, you get the idea. And now they've, everything's grouped. So you have your location rule, then you have your presentation. So the style, the position, the label placement, the instruction placement, where it appears in the order. And then the hide on screen has been moved here to the right, which is quite nice. And then you've got the group settings. If we look at the older version or the previous version, you'll see that it was a far simpler interface, because you could just scroll down and immediately you could see, right, there's my style, that's where it's going to be placed, the description, and then of course where to hide on screen. So also here, as you scroll down, you can see just about everything that you need in one screen, and you can pretty much make all the settings changes almost at the same time. At the moment, in the new version, you're going to have to tab. So what took you one click is now going to take you, if you're doing all the settings, it's now going to be another 2 clicks. And also you just got to live with this jump in the screen depending on, if you're looking at the presentation here and then you go to group settings, then things jump around a bit. Not sure that that's really too much of an issue, but it is a bit irritating. Anyway, so yeah, you are going to click a lot more. So what was 1 click now is going to be 2 or 3. And also because you can't see a summary of this information anywhere. So to give you an idea, if I, let me just get my screen sorted here. So in the older version, if I was here, I could quickly see what was going on. Now when it comes to the new version, there's no summary information here. So when you arrive here, you don't know what's been set anywhere. So the only way that you can know what's going on is you're going to have to click through to check, especially if it's something you haven't worked on for a while. Maybe you're going to have to click on to check, okay, what's going on. Whereas before, you could just scroll down and quickly identify, what the differences are. When it comes to the actual field, so I'm going to head over here into the keyword. You'll also see now that it's pagination heavy. So you'll see here you have the validation, the presentation, the conditional logic. So if we're here on presentation, and then we go to general. So once again, there's no summary of information anywhere. So if you want to know what's going on inside one of your custom fields, you're going to have to click on every single tab to see what's going on. In the previous version, what was really nice is if I go into the keyword here, you can see I have the keyword label, the text. There is a bit more scrolling. And granted, these fields here could just have been moved above the entry here, and there would be a lot less scrolling here off the bat. But what was nice here is that you could quickly, in terms of conditional logic, show this field if you needed to get some information here for your conditional logic, you were able to get it quite quickly. So to give an example, if it won't show a condition now, but there have been times where in conditions I've had to scroll up and just have a look at some information and then scroll down again and continue. Now, of course, you're not going to have that quick access. You are going to have to click, and you have to remember what is on each of these tabs now. So it's not only that you have to tab, it's also that you have to just get used to, validation gets a tab on its own, but it's really, just whether it's required or not. And before, the validation was, up here. So I don't know if validation, does it really need a whole tab on its own? Could it not be included under the general tab? So everything now is going to become 4 clicks. It's all about clicking, whereas before you could come in, scroll down, get to where you want to be, and then carry on. So it is going to take a little bit of getting used to. It might just be a personal preference, but I'm not such a big fan on so many clicks. Now, here I am. Where am I now? So I don't know what field group I'm in here. I don't know why. So this is a bit confusing now because I'm here in this field group that I was editing, and it's reference keyword. So before, if I close the tab, I would see, there we go. So there's the reference keyword now. Add field, save changes. And in the previous version, we had the add field here, and then we had the update here. Now, for me, I got to say that I prefer the add field at the bottom, because if you have several fields, maybe that becomes an issue. So add field. Okay, I'm not sure what's going on now. So this was really confusing. So I had the fields closed here, and I can add fields, but I don't see them. So I keep clicking, hoping to see something. And it's only then when I hit the drop down that I see that I've now created, quite a few fields, because I didn't realize that it was doing something. Whereas in the previous version, there's no doubt that I've created the field. So for me, the user experience here is a lot nicer. I can see where I am, I can see exactly what I'm doing, and I see all the options for the field as I'm filling it in. So I don't have to, I can kind of get an idea if this is going to be the right field for me. If we have a look here, this is not, I'm going to remove some of these because I really didn't want that many. Now what I'm going to do is just add a new field here. So I'm going to go with, let's say, a repeater, and I'll do the label, the field name. Okay, now I've got to add another field. So let's add another field, and let's just, okay, it's a text field. Okay, so now the field type has moved to the top. Whereas before, when you were working here, for example, and I'm going to just call this repeater, and the field type is repeater. So now when you added a new field here, it would go field label, field name, and type. Now you have field type, field label, field, and then the default value. Now, what was really nice about the old version is that when I selected a different field, so I don't know, do I need text or a text area? As you changed, you would see what the differences are. And, do I need a text area or do I need a YC wig editor? Let me just have a look here and see what's the difference. Whereas now when you change the field type, so I've added the field. If I wanted to see maybe YC wig editor, okay. Now I can here decide whether I want to show media uploads, but I can't do that here. So now I have to go to my presentation to see what the options are for the field. Here it's very simple. I can change my field. So if it's a, let's go with a checkbox, and let's say, well, let me rather do something like a taxonomy. So if I do something, say a taxonomy, then it would give me the category. So what is it? So maybe it's product type. And I could have a look and see, okay, what am I going to go? Okay, no, radio buttons. Now what happens on the new version is it's not going to be that simple. On the new version, where's product type now? Okay, wait, got to go back to general. And now let's go to taxonomy. Let's just have a look here. Content choice, relation. It shouldn't be this difficult. Why am I battling here? There's taxonomy. Okay, so now we have the taxonomy. Okay, now we have, okay, here we can create terms, save term, load terms, checkbox. And here we select the taxonomy term, so that's great. So that is now in the general tab where you have this, the taxonomy options. Okay, and then what do we have under presentation? Under presentation, we just have instructions and then the wrapper attributes. So presentation has the instructions, has general. So I would say it probably would suit me more then under the general to have the instructions with that field. So while I'm creating the field, so I'm going to come in here and say, what is this? Product type. And if I was to do that field label here, so product type, then instructions, please do the following, because I'm still now in the zone of I'm creating the field. Here I'm in the zone of creating the field. Let me just get my bearings here. So, okay, what field? So here, if I want to know what field I'm working on, it's very quick. Field type, field name, taxonomy, do the following. Here, it's going to be, okay, what field am I working on here? Okay, hang on. I'm on product type, taxonomy. Okay, there we have product type. And the instructions now I can't enter. So while I'm in the zone of setting up the field, I'm going to flip here. These are the instructions, and then I'm going to flip back to general, create terms, save term, load term, and then I can do the appearance. That's great. Term object. Here, save terms, load terms, create terms once again, term object, conditional logic. So now if I want the conditional logic, okay, hang on a second, conditional logic, where are we? Okay, so I think what's also, it's just, this here is, I don't know if it's because of the small screen, maybe that'll work better on the bigger screen, easier to read. Also the tabs, don't know, I think if they were somehow, if they stood out more as tabs, maybe if they were just maybe spread out a little bit more, or if they were maybe this purple was followed through in some way, so you can actually identify this row as the row with the tabs on. Then we have the conditional logic presentation. So conditional logic is here. Okay, now you've got to turn it on, and then you see the fields. And in the previous version, if we look at conditional logic, same thing, turn it on, and then we could see the conditional logic. But it was, it just felt, a lot, it just feels like it was a bit quicker in the previous version. Maybe it's just because I'm used to that, but it's just that all the information that I need to know is immediately visible. I can just quickly scroll down and see, or I can just hit the space bar on my laptop and I can see, exactly what's happening further down on the page. With the tabs, it's going to take a while now to get used to what's on each tab and then to remember which tab. And then also, because the styling is the way that it is, this is great because you can see, okay, I'm busy with this field, so it's highlighted. That's great. Then we have these tabs here, but it's not immediately obvious that for some reason that these are the tabs. And then scrolling down here now to have this. Now, what would happen if we had a repeater nested in here? So let's add another repeater. So let's go new repeater, and okay, and then add a field, and let's just add another. Let's add a relationship field. Okay, so now let's have a look at that. So we've saved the changes. I'm going to go back. So there we have that. Now we have the field group with a new repeater. And then you scroll down. Okay, this is really, maybe it's because I'm not used to it or because of the styling, that things are not separated enough. And now I've got to remember that I have several tabs that I need to remember, that I need to look at. So I might have to here look at the presentation, come back. Where are my repeater fields? So this is a repeater. Now there are no repeater fields. So to get to the repeater fields, now I have to go back to general. And there are the repeater fields. Now if I look at the old version, if I was here, so that was inside the repeater. So you'll see this was a repeater inside the repeater, and now let me nest repeater, and inside the nested repeater, let me add another field. So this is a repeater, and then inside the repeater here, add field, and let's just do relationship. So now I go down to relationship. Okay, so I've set up the fields, and what was really cool is you could come down, you could see, okay, nested repeater, and just that shift to the right indicated that you are now looking at the repeater fields within the repeater. Okay, so that's great. Quite easy to see. Also, all the conditional logic is visible. So not just the conditional logic for the repeater that I'm working on, but also for the previous repeater. So if I needed to compare anything between the two, quite easily do so. Everything I needed to know about this field group was on the screen and easily accessible. Now what happens with the new version is you really have to work hard, because if you're looking at the conditional logic of product type, Oh, then here's the new repeater here. So now I can look at the conditional. This is not working. This doesn't work. I don't know if this is something that's still going to be worked on from a styling perspective, but this setup here is not working. It's very difficult to work out separation between the two. So I would imagine that this is going to change to make it easier to see, because it's really confusing to realize which repeater you're working on, because it would be quite easy to come down here to be working on the scroll down and accidentally start making changes here, thinking that you were maybe over here. Now, I think what made it easy on the previous version was the fact that you had this indent here. So it would be very easy now if I had another repeater. And I'm just, it's not often that you would have so many nested repeaters, but if you did have another repeater, you would then have a field in here. And let's just do the text field. So now you would see, okay, hang on, that's repeater 1, move 1 over, previous repeater, move 1 over, previous repeater. So you always know that's repeater 1, repeater 2, repeater 3, and it was easy to see by virtue of the indicators here on the left. On the new one, if we were to add another repeater to these fields, it's going to get very confusing. Even now, I don't know where to add. So I've got product type. Then which is taxonomy. Then I've got this repeater. Okay, so now I'm going to add a repeater to the repeater. Let's just have a look. Okay, so maybe not that confusing then, because we have the label. We have the first repeater. And everything jumps around a lot. Oh, that's because of this other add-on for the browser, which allows you to access the code. So you're able to copy the code and the code with the subfields quite easily. So you can then use it somewhere else. So that's, I think, what's causing this big jump. Whereas in the other version, it didn't create a jump at all because of the layout and the positioning. So let's just go back here. And then if we have a repeater, and we have a repeater within the repeater, okay, so the lines do indicate here on the left where we are. So that's not too bad. And then add field text. Test, save changes. Okay, so yeah, I'm not sure if it's just because I'm very used to the old version, but the new version, I think is going to take some getting used to. I think the styling on the older one, or the layout, was just quicker to work with, because you didn't have to click on so many tabs, and whatever you saw on your screen, that's what you've got. Whereas now with the tabs, you probably will flip around a bit, trying to remember where everything is. And here, for example, I don't know if it's the colors, the styling, the layout, but I'm not finding it that easy to distinguish between the rows. And then, like here, I know that I'm busy working on new repeater, but it's almost not immediately obvious. So I don't know if it's possible to make, maybe to extend this line and make maybe a right angle or something, so you can see, well, that's where it ends. These fields look, a little bit too close together. On the previous version, if you're looking at all your field groups together, you didn't have that, you never had any doubt which field you were busy with. So if I clicked on there with that strong blue line, I knew that I'm busy with everything from there down, and I could see repeater, nested repeater, and another repeater. And the strong blue line really helped to define your position on the page. Over here, I'm not seeing that or feeling that. And then you've got all these tabs to work with. And I don't think that, I just think it's not, for me, it's going to slow me down, I think. There's a lot more that you have to do now when you work on an advanced custom field. And in terms of your location on the screen, there's a lot more that you have to be aware of in order to determine where you are. By that, I mean you have to know which row you're in, but you can't tell immediately which row you're in. You actually have to just do a bit of a double take to make sure that, okay, you're in that row. So I would imagine if that was a dark purple, I would have no doubt about the field that I'm working on. At the moment, I have the doubt because I can't really distinguish. And then in terms of which tab you're on, you're really going to have to pay attention, because just having the single line at the bottom as a quick reference, I'm just not sure that if that had been a solid purple band across the top and maybe the tabs had a solid color behind them, or they stood out more, it would be easier to follow. And also there's a lot of kind of white space here, lots of big gaps, and I don't know if that just makes this unnecessarily large. And so in terms of the, I know this is a cosmetic update to a plugin that is really dated, and it's been around for a long time and probably needed an overhaul. I don't think that the updates that have been made are necessarily the best cosmetic updates for the plugin. I do think it makes it more confusing. And there's a lot more to learn now, because in the past I could simply head over to that field, and if I wanted to know everything about that field, I would be able to just scroll down and see, okay, I need to be prepared for all of this. Okay, I've got that. Conditional logic. Okay, the wrapper attributes. Okay, so I know what's going on. Now when it comes to a field, I've got to scroll down, and I have to now click through each one now and see, okay, that's the validation. So what are the validation options now for this field? Oh, okay, those are the validation options. Okay, and here I am on what field? This is repeater 3. Okay, this is repeater 3, and those are the validation options. So here, if I go to that repeater, and I want to know, let's have a look here. What field type is that? So that's repeater 3. That repeater 3 would... I'm already confused looking at this new tab system. So if I'm here on repeater 3, I can quite easily shut down those rows, have a look here, and see minimum rows, maximum rows. So what's the validation now? What does that mean? Just going to have a look here, go back here. So what does validation mean? Okay, so that's what that means. Where are my fields? Does this repeater have any? Okay, no, I've got to go back to the general tab then to see the fields. Okay, so now I'm back on the general fields. Now if I go to the test, we have validation required. Okay, so this is not, I don't, I don't think that the changes that have been made to advanced custom fields here in trying to make it a better product have succeeded. Okay, there we see the purple sticking, so you know where you are. Here, there's no purple, so I don't know. Is this the beginning? This almost feels, the top of the line almost feels like that's where it starts and comes down, not from there. So I'm always looking here and then just checking if new repeater and new repeater are the same. So that's already slowing me down. Um, let's just head back here. Um, yeah, so I have to be um, for me, and let me add the field keys here. Um, and then I'm going to add the field keys on the other site as well. Um, field keys. And let me just enlarge here. Yeah, I'm afraid that for me, this is going to be difficult to work with. I'm not talking about learning how to use the fields, but the way that it is now, it's actually very difficult to work with. Everything looks the same, and there isn't enough differentiation between the items. Also, yeah, I just think it's just the feel is wrong. There's too many clicks. Um, the sections and the fields are not differentiated enough, and you have to now learn pretty much what information can be found on each tab, because there's no way of seeing a summary of information before tabbing through. So it's not like I'm on here and I can see something that tells me, has the validation been set? Well, I don't know. I'll have to click. Okay, next time I come in, has the validation been set? Let me check. Okay, so that has the keyword. Okay, so the validation then has been set. What is the validation? Whereas before, if you were looking at a field, let's say the keyword, it's a text field, you could scroll down and you could see, okay, is it required? Yes or no. The default size, the placeholder text, the prepend, the append, all that information was available at the tip of your fingertips, and you didn't have to learn what was on each tab, or you didn't have to click to see what was on each tab. So when you're dealing with and you're flipping between a lot of sites with a lot of custom fields, I just think that all the clicking and the tabbing um, is going to slow you down. Um, Even here, if you just want to make a quick change to something and you're flipping between one website and another, it's going to take you time to, okay, get to the field group, general, okay, no, hang on, that's presentation. Uh, this is the placeholder text, and then you're going to do something, come back, and you can't just open up the field and see, okay, that's the placeholder text. So before, what was nice is if we have a look over here at the keyword, I could quickly put in, so this is placeholder. I mean, I can quite quickly just scroll down and see the placeholder text. In fact, if there was a suggestion for styling, it would just be to group some of these elements with a similar color background. So you could say required and default value perhaps had a slightly different background. So you know that they were grouped together. Prepend and append and character limit. Maybe you want to move the character limit up to under the, maybe the validation kind of elements. But I don't think that the tabbing and the way that it's done and the styling necessarily make it better. And I do think, for me, although Advanced Custom Fields is a brilliant plugin and I've built so many amazing things with it, I love the plugin. The functionality is incredible. Um, I just think that this here is actually going to, I don't know if it's going to necessarily put people off, but it does make things a lot more difficult. So, as far as the new update goes and the new way of doing things, I don't think it's the best, um, from a user point of view. I don't think it's the greatest changes that I've seen. I do think that Advanced Custom Fields did need a bit of a facelift, um, but I don't think that this is the right. For me, this is not going to be great working on a lot of um, different fields. It just feels like there's a lot of heavy lifting, whereas in the previous version, I just felt that it was a lot easier. Um, it was just straightforward and simple. There were no clicks, and you were always aware of everything to do with this field at the same time. Well, that's just some input then on the new version of Advanced Custom Fields. It is in release candidate 3 now, so it will be released as soon as the final updates are made. In my view, I think it's going to slow you down if you're doing a lot of work in Advanced Custom Fields. There's a lot more that you have to remember. So yeah, I think I'm going to be voting that the older version or the previous layout worked better for me, and that the new layout, although it doesn't affect the functionality of the plugin, I just do think it's going to slow you down a bit. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that video. Thank you for watching.